Hi, I'm Adam Drake from Mugen Seiki Racing, and today I'm going to talk about the OS Speed B2102 engine. This is my engine of choice for 8-scale buggy, as you can see in the background. Just kind of want to go over a little bit the setup that I use for this engine and just some cool features, unique features with this engine, as well as which glow plug to choose and things like that. So for the pipe and header, I use the OS 2090 pipe with the 75 millimeter header. And then, as you can see here, I have 3 different OS glow plugs. The engine comes stock with the standard P3 plug. That's what I normally break the engine in with. And then once the engine is fully broke in, I switch to the P3 T-Series, the gold glow plug. With the gold plug, you'll have just a little bit more throttle response or initial response, as well as it's just slightly more durable. And then there's also from OS the P4 glow plug. It's not a bad option, but for me, I pretty much use the P3 in pretty much all conditions. Again, break in with the standard P3, and then when I go racing, I use the P3 gold plug. Now, with the 2102 engine, as you can see, it has super low profile cooling head. The engine overall has a very smooth power band. Very good overall power, but really smooth and easy to put the power to the ground. And also extremely good fuel mileage. But one thing that you need to consider with the low profile head is that when you temp the engine, the temp gun is pretty much right on the glow plug. So the temperature reading that you're going to get with this engine versus a standard like 2101 or a Spec 2 or Spec 3 engine is the reading is going to be slightly higher with the 2102 engine. And that's purely because the temp gun is just closer to the glow plug, where with a traditional head, it sits up quite a bit higher. It's not something to worry about because actually with this low profile head, there's more material or more mass that's lower and around the crankcase. So the head will actually draw more heat out of the crankcase than the traditional head, but the temperature reading is going to be slightly higher. I would say 35 to 40 degrees higher, but you really just want to make sure you always temp the engine in a consistent spot. You don't want to move it around. I normally like to just do it basically just in front of the glow plug and just make sure that you do it consistent from run to run, because if you move it around, the temperature can vary quite a bit. And again, with this engine, if you're used to running a standard 2101 or Spec 3 engine, and you normally run your engine in the 240 to 250 range, with this engine, you're now going to be between 275 and 280. But again, overall, crankcase temperature should be about the same, if not slightly cooler with this engine. Another awesome feature with the OS B2102 engine is the DLC coated crankshaft. And if you've ever had an engine without a DLC coated crankshaft, a lot of times you'll kind of get some rust or buildup on the crankshaft, and the bearings can actually be difficult to remove. With the DLC coated crankshaft, you don't have that problem. The bearings always slide on and off very easy, and the crankshaft will pretty much last forever. The crankshaft also is putty filled to give a little bit smoother, more efficient power band. I normally run a 6.5 millimeter Venturi, and depending on the track conditions and how much power you like, you can adjust that accordingly. Usually a smaller Venturi will have a little bit smoother power, and in most cases will help increase runtime. But in some conditions, when you run a larger Venturi, you have more power, and then that allows you to drive a little bit smoother and easier. and can actually increase your runtime. Another really cool feature with this engine, like we talked about, is the low profile cooling head. And what that'll do is actually lower the center of gravity of the vehicle, which allows the vehicle to drive a little bit flatter. If you're on a really bumpy, rough track, because of the lower center of gravity, the car won't want to flip. It also kind of jumps and lands better, similar to like when we went to the Lexan wing in the back to reduce the amount of weight that's up high. It just allows the car to be a little bit more nimble and also just drive much flatter and more stable. So again, this is the OS Speed B2102 engine, and this is my engine of choice for nitro buggy racing.